The hell are those? Hi, I'm Zeospantera. Welcome to Z Reviews. And if you want to check out my Patreon and Subscribe Star, please do. Otherwise, shut up and watch me talk about these speakers. So, Fosi SP601s. And they're called the 601s because that's a 6-inch driver, and that isn't a 1-inch driver. They claim it's a 1.5, but I have my doubts. Maybe it's 1.5. And if you know Fosi from anything, you know Fosi from these sorts of things. Relatively super affordable, either monoblocks or stereo amps. I've got a set of the ZD3s, individually monoblocked here for my front channels. I've got their VU meter. I've got their gaming console. I've got their dongles. You know what? Fosi. You know Fosi. So Fosi decided to put their dick in the speaker market. It kind of makes sense. Emotiva for the longest time was just amps and processors. And they were like, you know what? Subs and speakers. Get everything in one shop. The thing that weirds me out about the Fosi speakers here is they didn't go for that same... By the way, did I use this wallpaper somewhere else? Please let me know in the comments if you remember if I used it in another video. It feels very familiar. But Fosi didn't decide to go, oh, let's bring out a super affordable $150, maybe $200 set of speakers, you know, for the entry level to continue along with it. No, $500. These are $500. And I would love to tell you that they're the best thing I've ever heard. But at $500, they have, and please feel free in the comments to let me know what else you would consider for $500 in the passive bookshelf market. They've got to worry about something like the Klipsch RP600M Mark 1 or 2 and the, hold on. That's a mono inverted pink noise for break-in. I don't know why I put it in my test tracks thing. I think I just moved into that folder, but yep. That's wild to move your head between the two because it's canceling out in midair. Anyway, they've got to worry about things like the Klipsch RP600 Mark II and, you know, this speaker that looks like a goddamn clone of that. Well, this came a couple of years beforehand, the Q Acoustics 3030i. Now, when I reviewed this speaker 2+ years ago, I said this is basically this, which is the RB42 from Mica, but bigger because Mica refuses to make a bigger fucking speaker. So you got the Q Acoustics. That thing is actually less money than the new Fosi, which is why all this seems so weird. Because you would think that Fosi would come out and just undercut everybody. $250, get a 6.5-inch with a giant soft dome, wave-guided tweeter, and everyone will be happy. But it's $500, and I can't, in good conscience, be like, buy these, they're great. Because you have to make some decisions. You got to trust a company that makes speaker amps to make a good speaker. Well, you have to trust me to tell you what the speaker does, and then decide if you want to say, hey, I got these new Fosi speakers. Because they're good. They're actually legitimately really good. And not powering them off of the Fosi gear, because that's what everyone would expect you to do. And I'm like, nah, fuck that. Orchard Audio. Star Crimson Ultra. Not the big monoblocks. Those are reserved for the Mons. But just you know, a little $4,000 amplifier, it's fine. Because I want to know how good the speakers are on top-tier equipment. I want to know on a Gustar DAC, coming through a mini DSP as my digital volume source control off of that power amp, what these can do. And to my surprise, when I sit down and hit next track, and hopefully it's not fucking pink noise again, that is from Monster Mesame. That's all you gotta know. It's from Monster Mesame. But that sounds... let me sort of describe this, because I wanted to say soft and bright, and that doesn't make any fucking sense. But that is a very forward-sounding speaker that doesn't hurt, because soft dome. Soft domes are good. I like soft domes. The Mons have, you know, AMTs in it, and like things like the Swans here have the panel tweeters. But the boot guards have like a soft dome. And where the Klipsch horns have, well, fucking compression horns, and are super forward, please see my video where I went outside with the Klipsch 9s, because those have directivity of sound. These do more of a washing effect of the whole space. I feel like it's just jizzing sound all over the room in a lovely and well-sorted manner. I'm kind of actually shocked because Fosi amplifiers, while being affordable and usually a great entry level, no one's going to be like, I have a Fosi amp, I'm done, I never need to upgrade anything ever. They're good. They're a starter amp. But they took the choice to make these speakers $500. And whether that's because of tariffs or not, I don't know. But they actually compete sound-wise with the Q Acoustics and the Klipsch. And, well, what did you listen to the description? Because the $500 price range, that's big. It's big. It's a big white nut. But I would not be upset if you showed me your theater and it had these in it. Or your listening space. If we had a sub, which Fosi currently doesn't have a sub, but I'd love to see a Fosi sub, because that would mean it would use a Fosi amp in the Fosi sub. And it would have that orange driver, which is kind of not a Klipsch ripoff, but like... there. Fucking Mozart. Delicate, direct, smooth. S. Damn, I need another thing for smooth that's a D, so I can do a triple D's. Delicate, direct, demure. Is that a word? Can I use that in a speaker? Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Zero. I can do anything I want. As I shuffle through my playlist and every other Falcon song on the earth, I get more and more impressed by just how these sound great. Nothing that's like super bombastic and I'm like, oh my God, my head exploded. But they sound $500, which is... fuck. Very many speakers do not sound their price. Go watch my IAM channel, the Inner Fetish channel. Because a lot of times I'll sit there and I won't know the price of an IAM because I can't pay attention that hard. This sounds great. It's $300 IAM. It's $900. And then I'm like, ooh. But if I sat down and there was a black curtain here, which I could actually install a acoustically transparent black curtain, and then I'd have to block the lights, and then I'd have to shut everything off, blind me, and then I wouldn't know it's behind the curtain, but then I also need someone else to set it up, because that would be an interesting way to do it. But if I were to judge these speakers based solely on the sound, not knowing what they look like, who made them, or their actual price, I'd put them in the mid hundreds. In the... like that little triangle is just, I could fucking taste it. It's right there. It's a little triangle right by your ass. It's a little ding, 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 ding. Bass response is a little bit gimped from the placement because they have. Yeah, we'll go look at the Q Acoustics again, do some comparisons. So 6.5 on this with a soft dome and a slightly bigger than 2-finger port. This has got a 1-finger port. The back of the Fosi, which is not as deep, it's actually a little more manageable depth-wise. That is a loose, or it's a tight 3-finger. And it's flared like a mofo. So you've got a huge port on these. They claim to go down to 44 hertz. And that could very well be true, but anyone who knows anything about anything will tell you that 44 hertz, that ain't enough to fucking make me happy, or you happy. So let's hit this button here. And now we will have the massive motherfuck of a subwoofer come in to assist. But that won't matter when we're playing Delicate Butterfly Mozart. What is this? This is the Rondalla Turca. Rondalla Turca. But what if we do some Witch from Mercury? Yeah. So now we've added a subwoofer and the Witch from Mercury soundtrack's on. And it's like, I need to fucking feel it, Zeos. So let's turn it up. -5, which, trust me, that's a lot. With the subwoofer in line, with these speakers. Wait. Don't want to get copyright. Copyright, nope. And don't tell me to get copyright-free music, because you tell me which copyright-free music's your favorite. That's right, you don't know. But, and I know I could play more, but then you won't have a reason to go check out my Patreon where I play some things with music all the time, including the sound demos, which will be for these speakers, which I'll come and do. But Once you put a subwoofer that's got a little bit of under these, or, well, I guess next to them behind a curtain, and it fills out that low end, yes, I wouldn't know what to price these at. $1,000. Because what they've done here, the integration they've done with the woofer and the tweeter and the port and the tuning and the crossover components, I find no flaw in the way they're presenting sound. That's a thing for Zeos to say every once in a while. It's like, you know what? They're not too harsh. They're not too bass light. They image spectacularly well. They're soft enough that I could probably use them near field, although they're massive. They would not be like, oh, just a desktop speaker, although I do have the big fluids back on my desk there just for shits and giggles. But they're in this room, and if I move them against the wall, if I took these speaker stands and I moved those and I put them here, where this port could actually interact with the back space, they'd probably have enough bass to make most normal people satisfied, but that ain't going to satisfy me because I'm fucking Zeo. So when I do things, it's got to be like... These sound kind of epic. The biggest problem I have with them is the looks and the branding. Because I think people are okay at this point if you say I have a Fosi amp. People like Fosi amps. They have a pretty good reputation. They're relatively reliable. Tell me in the comments what you think about the brand Fosi. But they made an only white speaker. I haven't seen a single version of it in black or anything. So you're going to have to pick a white speaker that's got a design that I don't necessarily love. Like the Q Acoustics somehow pull it off. But they also have like an integrated, you could buy a stand that perfectly matches with it. And then the cover, where the hell's the cover? You pull out the cover for it, and the cover like completely meshes with it and the Q logo. Whereas the Fosi is giant white snowball with just heavy. It's probably the strongest magnets on a speaker grill that I've ever experienced. Watch out. Take your hand off. Like literally keep away from children. So when you cover them, and this is a heavy piece of wood, which is probably why there's such strong murder magnets. That leaped out of my hand. They're kind of boring. Now, you can look at this in two ways. You could say, well, Zeos are boring, I don't want them. Or you could say, Zeos, is that covered in PVC? And you can pretty much draw in it with a dry erase marker and then, use rubbing alcohol to clean it off later. Yes. I would encourage you to protect the drivers and have your children draw the fuck all over them. I just wish they were $300. If these were $350, this video would be so easy to make. Of course, there's really nothing sub 400 that's big and smooth and this nice a presenting sound at a volume we are presenting at a fucking volume. That is a volume of sound. And this is, by the way, Hideki. Oh, this is from Jet Set Radio Future. Just go get the whole soundtrack. I'm not going to tell you specific songs. You want the Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future soundtrack. But they're a $500 nut that you have to spend on a Fosi speaker. So really, I can't I don't think the brand has come along far enough in the annals of things to be like, oh, obviously I'd spend $500 on Fosi speakers because I trust them entirely. If Micah, because I have the RB42 up there, if Micah came out with the RB62 or RB52 and they were like, we want $500, unquestionably, I'd buy a set because they've proven their track record with speakers for the last 10 years. This being Fosi's first speaker, I'm hesitant. But I'm standing here in front of you also going, ooh, fucking ooh, fucking ooh. Wait, I gotta pause it. This is, by the way, Bobby Mitzner, the Body Acoustic Bronxville, which is a town I grew up next to. Full of assholes, but still. I don't live in the Bronx, I live in Bronxville. Like, they showed these off in Munich, or they tried to, because Munich had a Fosi table, which was like 10 feet long, but it was a table down a narrow corridor, and Fosi had all their stuff in a big pile, and they had these sitting next to it. So the farthest you could get from these speakers was about this far. And so I couldn't play them at any volume because you'd bother or kill the people behind you. Because Fosi's just monoblocks and fucking preamps and shit. So I didn't really get to hear them. But when they sent them to me and I had them on the break-in rig, I was breaking them in, and I'm like, ooh, these are going to sound decent. And now that I've got them set up, tuned, turned, actually, and placed, and I'm sitting in the sweet spot, and I'm looking at the lines on the floor and the line I drew on the ceiling that's all drawn with lasers, and I've just got this massive open space in front of me, and I hit play. That's fucking phenomenal. They're imaging in an arc above because they're a little bit too low for the TV, but I'm still hearing sounds up there. I think this might be the best first effort speaker I've ever heard. Are you willing to put money on that, though? Because I can't tell you to spend $500. You're going to decide if you want to look at these, look at the clips, look at the Q acoustics, look in the comments. What have other people recommended? Are there Wharfdales down there? People love to if I ask you guys to give recommendations to other people and to me in comments, there'll be 190 comments in the first hour. Of no, Zeos, that's not the one you want. For $500, you got to spend this or this or this or this or this. Keep in mind, I want passive and large form factor. I would accept 5 1/4 speakers, but don't give me no like 4-inch recommendation. Get that shit out of here. These are big boy speakers, and they are a big boy price. And Fosi's looking you straight in the eye and saying buy them, and I'm looking you straight in the. Fine, I'll do it. I'm looking you straight in the eye and say consider buying them. Because they're actually good, like actually actively good. But no matter what I say about them, you have to spend the money. It's your $500. They're available on Amazon, so if you don't like them, you return them. But you better like white. White better work for you. And I am also judging them on multiple thousands of dollars worth of sources and gear. And if you don't have that, like I want to give them the best shot. I want to know how good the speakers are. It isn't like these come bundled with Fosi monoblocks or a Fosi ZD3, and I have to judge it like that. This is absolute, unless I switch to the LPS, which might be even better, this is about as fucking good as a pair of speakers will sound in this house on their own, without doing room correction and Dirac and sound ID and correcting for the space. But I'm fucking happy. The question it always comes down to before I start one of these videos is, I look myself in the mirror, or actually look into the anime girl's eyes and be like, hey, am I happy with this? Because if I'm happy, it's getting a good review. If I'm sad, it's getting a bad review. And if I'm just kind of like in the middle, it gets like a wandering, mediocre review. But I like these. They have a couple issues with like looks and they're kind of boring. And the orange cone, I like the orange cone, but it's very hi-fi klipsch. But then again, Fosi's also always had the orange knobs. So it does fit the theme. I wish they offered an interesting color besides white. Give me like a battleship gray. I would like a battleship gray, or I hate black things, like black speakers, but with that cone, if they did like a little detail ring around the tweeter, it might stand out more. So this is a hard review because listen to Gata. It's Gata from Battlestar Galactica. It turns out he could sing, and I remember when that show was airing and he did this thing at the end right before they threw him out of fucking airlock. It was really emotional, and I will cry to it. There's a speaker I can still get emotional for the music. Some speakers I put on here and it's just like, all right, speaker assessment, la 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 la, okay, done. And these speakers, I want to love them more than I think I physically can. The only thing that would make me love them to the levels of Zeos's hype fucking training this shit would be they're $250 and not $500, or they're spectacularly sexy on top of sounding this good. These are kind of mediocre looking, and they're a first effort from Fosi Audio, but they sound fucking amazing. But they're in a price range now where you have to talk about the competition. Usually I don't. I try to avoid that in a lot of videos. If you haven't noticed, I will not bring up everything that competes with everything, because every video product deserves its own video in the spotlight. But speakers like this, you're making a decision. Because it isn't like Fosi also has a matching center. They don't. Q Acoustics does. Klipsch does. You're buying these, you're buying just a 2-channel. If you buy another set, you can put them in the rear. If you buy another set, you could do a center channel with one of them and have an extra one for like a back center, or throw it in a closet in case one of them blows up. And then that would cost you $1,500 for 3 sets. And actually it would kind of sound pretty fucking awesome in a home theater with 6 of these. But it's just... in the shirt of man. It's way better than I thought they would be. Let's put it that way. I wish they had a more distinct style. I can't ask them to build them better. They're MDF with PVC, so you could just draw on them. We'll see what happens. Because this is Fosi's first effort. I'm imagining that what's going to happen now is they're going to go from the 6-inch model, and people are going to demand, hey, can you make a smaller one, like a 4-inch for the desk? Since that's where most Fosi products are. And they're going to come up with a 4-inch version. Mark my words. I do not actually know. I didn't speak to anyone of my contacts at Fosi and ask this question. I just feel like that's what's going to happen. When you want to take off the grill, you got to slide it. Holy fuck. They're going to give you a pry bar to take this shit off. And the Q Acoustics do like a half cover. Like they don't cover the whole thing. They leave a little bit. And there's no... I do like this fact, though. When you take those off, there is no branding. There is zero branding. They are just... they look rendered a little bit like white speaker. But is that enough to get you to buy it? Because that thing's great. This thing's actually great. The crossover design is obviously good. And the back, you have your negative and positive terminals. You got decent 5-way binding posts. It does say Fosi Audio SP601 there. The port's got a little bit of a design around it, which hopefully I don't get sued by... I think B&W, not BMW, B&W, Bowers & Wilkins, own the patent on the golf ball dimpling on ports that prevent the port chuff sound. And they're dicks, because they should make that, fucking let that go so other people can have chuffless ports, because no one's going to buy B&W Nautilus for that. Yeah, I like these speakers. I like them a lot. I like them enough for that wallpaper. The question is... are you, and you could tell me in the be honest about it, will you spend $500 on a Fosi speaker? Their first speaker, a very good speaker, but it's still a Fosi speaker. Because I don't think they have the name in speakers yet. They certainly have the name in amplifiers. Everyone will buy a Fosi amp and be like, I bought a Fosi amp, just get me by. Fosi amps are I got myself started with that, and you move on to bigger and better things when you get to the hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But this is not an entry-level speaker. This is trying to be a mid-level, and for a normal person living a normal life who wants to spend money on speakers once every 15 years, you throwing it at a Fosi speaker? Or are you going to throw it at a Klipsch? Or are you going to try to find a triangle? I forgot about the triangles. Holy shit. I got the triangle speakers right over here. You guys were like $480. The Borea BR04s, I love those. So now I've got the Boreas, I've got the Klipsch, and I got the Q Acoustics, and they're all looking at this Fosi going, who the fuck's this new guy? And why should we give him any respect? And I can answer at least that question for you. You should give him respect because he fucking sounds like you should give him respect. Everything else, that'll come in time. That's from Akiba Made War. Fantastic show. Everyone should watch it. Don't watch the first 5 minutes, and then you'll have a real good surprise when you go into it. Keep in mind the subwoofer is on to fill it in, but I think most speakers, even these, which technically if you bought these at retail with the bottom things are $17,000, even those I integrate the fucking subwoofer with. So yeah, Fosi, fucking incredible effort. Like, just, you're blowing my mind here with how good these sound. I wish they looked better for the price. I feel like they want a very safe build. And if they want something a little more fancy and is flashy or different edges or different grill materials or something, I'd have a little more to like work with here. But it's like, it's $500 and I literally have 3 things within 15 feet of me that you can get instead. and you'd be happy with all of them. So Zeos doesn't shill everything as hard as humanly possible. I try to work in my like, okay, if I recommend this fully and don't mention those other ones, people go like, why don't you mention those other ones? But it should certainly be part of the conversation. It's a good start, Fosi. I want to see what they do with their smaller one, and I want to see what they do with the next revision of things that come out. Although, honestly, all their stuff is rounded edges, so it kind of makes sense. I guess they could also do a powered monitor. If this was a $500 Fosi self-powered, so they put one of their monoblocks in each one of them, and then you connected it across and you had Bluetooth, absolutely fucking phenomenal. This would destroy a lot of things in the category, because a lot of the $500 self-powered stuff starts at $525, smaller stuff, a little more compact. This would be the big hunk of chunk is at $500, but they're passive speakers. So you gotta have to buy their amps or use other amps in the meantime, making the system guaranteed to be more than $500. So the answer is, I fucking like these. I fucking love the way they sound. Love the way they sound on the way they look, and their price is maybe tariff proof. Maybe they made it $500 because of the shit that's going on, and this way we won't have to raise the price to $900. Maybe they were going to come out at $350, and they're like, oh shit, just make them $500, and we'll see how they go. So should all this shit blow over, there might be incredible sales on these. In the meantime, that's a hell of a piano fucking thing. Whoa. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed. All right, I'm done. Wallpaper and the Wallpaper Horde. Patreon and Subscribe Star, like I mentioned at the beginning, support this channel. You guys are what keep this whole shit going. When I do collabs with stuff, or I do sponsorship things for travel, that's all because I don't want to take all the money you guys are giving me to live and use it for that. So if you want to support this channel, you want to see reviews early, participate in yard sales, get to lossless sound demos, $7 a month does that. If you want to ask me questions directly instead of the comments of this video where I may or may not see them after like a week, if you want to ask me questions directly in the $15 a month support, you get to ask me questions in the Telegram chat. There's 130 people in there. They can answer. I can answer. I see it when I'm in bed laying. Imagine this, but not too hard. Me, naked in bed. It's 2 a.m. My phone goes zzz, zzz. I look at it and someone's like, hey, Zeos, I have $500 to spend on the speaker, blah, 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 blah. And I will look at that fucking message and I'll probably tell you I'll message you back tomorrow. And then I actually will. And I'll go over all the options and all the things you want to do. Someone just messaged me before this video. I was like, hey, I want to buy a self-powered set of speakers, and it was talking about the Swans. Then I told him I met the president of Swan, and they're thinking about doing like a collab. And then he said, stop everything. Tell me about that instead. So if you want to talk about that, for $15 a month, you get into that chat. And that also puts you into a lifetime swap meet channel to buy, sell, and trade gear. So if you're looking for a place to get rid of things where you can just talk directly with people instead of using fees on eBay and shit, there you go. So in the meantime, check out the Hi-Fi Guides forums. Check out Patreon and Subscribe Star. Check out my collabs in the link tree below. And don't forget to get every wallpaper ever in the Resilio Sync, which on my second channel, I actually did a review of that software like 4 years ago because it was so good. And I use it for everything. In the meantime, I'm going to Konosuba and think about what I've done in my life. Because this speakers sound awesome.